This is a campus drill called Rung Tap Bump Ladder. What that basically means, the rung tap refers to the fact that rather than latching and holding on to every next rung that you go to, we'll get this clip going so you can see what I mean, you're simply tapping it and returning immediately to the start hold. That means that not only is this all about coordination of your moving hand, but it also really forces dynamic control of your lock off on the bottom hand. Now, let's kind of just go to the most dramatic position. Now, the key thing here is that whenever you are concentrically launching, both hands are on the same rung. That is a very stable environment. That means that you have regular distances between hand and center of gravity. And when they're both uniform like that, that's kind of like having twin turbos on a straight, flat street. It's going to be really easy to just tap in and access all of your power. So whenever we're on a campus board and we're in this sort of symmetrical position, that means that we're going to have a really good proportion of lat power and elbow power on each side. And because they're going to be relatively symmetrical, that means that the center of gravity is going to have a really easy time going up in a very straight line, equally distributing the work between both arms. And that will be expressed, if you'll notice the spine position here, it's kind of dead center, even all the way up through the moment now the hand is going to latch through, and even there we're still seeing let's get rid of that white line. Look at that. It's really clean. That spine is in line with the center of gravity, which is evenly spaced between both hands. That's why this is an open body position, even in tapping that rung. And that's a decent distance, if I do say so myself, for this drill. So that's 1, let's see, 2, 3, 4, and that makes 4.5. Okay, so that's a 1 to 4.5 range, all done very quickly. And I have to be able to, in this case, as I'm demonstrating in the video here, the hand is coming back down even before the shoulders or the center of gravity come back down. And that's because I have to be able to coordinate latching onto the hold and then decelerating the force. You can see how the elbows are able to stay engaged at the bottom there before the end of the drill. So that one is open body position, hands on the same level when launching. This is an exaggerated version of pull-throughs on a campus board. The reason for showing this clip next is to really try to clearly demonstrate what I call a closed body position on a campus board. So, I'm going to put this in slow-mo and start it. Okay, you can kind of see how my nose and ears are have to turn to the side, and you'll see that again over here. So as I'm going up on this side, even the hips have to start to twist. So the body's actually twisting from one side to the other side. Now, the absolute, let's rewind that back here, the absolute physics difference between starting with your hands on either the same rung, or even if it's, one rung off, that's pretty close there. The hips get to reside in those situations almost literally right in between the hands. That kind of creates this nice stable triangle kind of shape. So when the goal, switch to a different color to make it a little bit more obvious. So when the goal is to take that center of gravity and move it just up, it can literally just go up in a straight line. Now, in this scenario, only one hand is on the rung, and the hips have to be underneath that base of support. So instead of being a triangle, it's actually just a straight line. Now, in order to adhere to that straight line, we have to now start using rotation to keep stability, but that rotation is going to you can kind of consider that like a reverse barbershop pull, where you are trying to use spiraling techniques in your musculature, and that is how you're going to raise your center of gravity in a straight line up. So in both scenarios, the center of gravity is going in a straight line up. That's how we're able to move up the campus ladder. The difference, though, is what techniques we have to engage in order to do that. And the key word is going to be rotation, rotation, rotation. Now, for this moment, as I'm starting to come up, you can even see it in the elbow. That's going to be the first point of rotation. Okay, it's kind of the first visible one in this case. Technically, it's simultaneous in the shoulder. So the shoulder and the forearm are working together to create rotation. Now that rotation is going to become stable. That's what makes our shoulder joint stable. And then we're able, if I zoom out it's easier to see, we're then able to try to get the hips to travel sort of around that shoulder joint. So when I say that, and you'll sort of see the hips start, okay, here. Now, it doesn't look like the hips are actually moving in anything than an elevator straight line. And the reason is because the spine, if there is a, the spine can only stay straight for so long. So you'll notice this. It's straight right now. Okay, so I've started to engage the elbow, but, still spine is pretty straight. And then watch what happens. As the elbow reaches its strongest mechanical angle, so as that approaches 120 degrees, watch what happens. Now start to see how that you can start to see the C shape beginning as I'm side bending. That's instinctive, but it's also for a reason. That's between side bending, you can see it now, and then there's a twist as I approach 90 degrees, as that elbow approaches 90 degrees, now you're starting to see the hips turn and start to face that way, and the nose and the ears start to face that way. There. I reach the end range of that campus lock-off, and now I'm going to have to spiral and side bend the opposite way. So on the way up was side bend, and then kind of spiral that way. And then it's going to have to reverse, so first up to straighten out, and then it's going to be the exact same process, just on the other arm, right? And notice how in order to be balanced, that hand only comes off once the hips have shifted enough that they are directly underneath that hand. When that happens, let's go rid of that line. And watch for it again. As the elbow approaches 120, the side bending and then the sort of spiraling and facing that way start to happen. Bam. So when I'm reaching for the uppermost rung, and here we're sort of simulating as if it were going to be 159, as you are reaching, you have to, because your elbow is going to be really, really engaged, so 90 degrees or even more acute than that, there will necessarily have to be a mechanical maximum side bend and sort of maximum spiral towards that lock-off hand. And that's how you're going to get the length, both the length of the arm reaching up as well as a sort of stabilizing of the center of gravity as close to and in line with that lock-off hand as possible. All right, maximum pull through finally. And it's even on finger rungs to make it even more specific. So we're going to kind of put the previous two clips together now because you'll notice that whenever we're doing this maximum pull through pattern on the campus board, both hands are always going to start on the same rung. Okay, after that, those will kind of zip ahead. First hand is going to go up pretty nearly as high as it can, and then we're going to try to reach after that to the next highest rung without matching. Okay, so these yellow circles just will indicate, so this is basically the start, move one, move two, and then, really like to finish with a campus match for all the indoor comp specificity. All right, now let's slow this down. What we were saying before, whenever both hands start on the same rung, that's a nice stable environment. It makes it easy for the center of gravity or the hips to stay right in the middle the entire time. That means that we're getting really, really even work between both sets of lats, both sets of elbows. Let's see. So really straight open body position for that first move. However, once, and you can start to see that asymmetry already beginning, once the hands are that well split, this next pull-through move changes techniques. So you start off open body technique, and then as soon as you're getting ready for the second move, it's got to switch to that closed body technique. So from what we were saying before, we should be seeing, as far as the hips go, they're going to have to go over here to get balance underneath the top hand. That way you're taking as much weight in a way off of that bottom hand as you can right off the bat. That's not going to be as relevant if your hands are really quite close together. So like if they were like that, or even really like that, the center of gravity can still stay, closer than not to the middle. But in this scenario, hips have got to go way over. So let's see if you can kind of see that. As soon as latch readjusts, bam, the hips are already starting to twist and to turn, as well as just translate over. So you'll see the hips as we go to 120 on the top arm, as we go to 90, and right there at the last moment, I'm going to keep my eyes focused on the prize, so you won't see the head turn. But if the head does not turn, all of that rotation has to go somewhere in the body. And so as opposed to that last clip, you should see and notice much more exaggerated hip twist, because that twist has to go somewhere. And that way, as I'm coming up, and you can kind of see, yes, that bottom arm is kind of helping out by pushing, but see how you can see so much of this inner arm. You can only see so much of that inner arm because even the chest is starting to face and rotate the other direction. That way, the entire body is bunched up into a ball right underneath that top hand, and that gives this moment. And right here, that's the moment that the bottom hand has come off the rung. That means that really the goal is to keep everything within that box. The torso, once it starts to drop, there's no way your hand is going to keep going up. So you need to be able to keep the torso in that box, and then right before the shoulders and the hips start to fall, that's when I hit the holds. Okay, so we'll play that clip one more time in slow-mo just to kind of show without as much talking and distracting drawing. But we're going from first move is open body position, and then that's going to transition into a closed body position. So that's one technique into the next technique, and that basically is the max pull-through on a campus board.